There's my mic. Hello! How are we all doing today? I'm late, I know, but in good news, I'm wearing a cape. Yay. I was like, I need to add some production value to my streams, but what the hell do I have? I have a cape. This is a game about nuns, so it feels fitting. There's a plot point about someone, whether they're wearing a cape or not, or tunic. It depends. The joke is, I think that he's shirtless because he was fucking someone. Oh, hell yeah. What kind of sweater vest are you making? What kind of yarn? Tell me about this craft. Sunflower. Oh, that's so cute. Nice. I don't have my tea today because I finished it last stream, but my brother hosted a games night at our place last night, so I'm like drowning in soft drinks. So today we are playing Misericorde and drinking 7 Up, which is a drink that barely exists in this country. It's only when a restaurant will have I say restaurant, when a pizza place has a partnership with Pepsi Corporation and so it doesn't have Sprite, they'll give you 7 Up instead. Oh, black sweater vest, that'd be cool. I have one of those. I bought one, like just the other day. I was in one of those shitty, trendy thrifting places that have like all those small jumpers and stuff. I got a sweater vest. A big meowed at. Hello. Do you want to come up and say hi? Or are you just gonna meow on the floor? He belongs to the floor. I'm skipping the intro. Sorry. It's great. Not Dangerfield? No, I don't have Dangerfield money at the moment. I have thrifting money, but not that. Sorry. I saw that cat again, and it just set me right off. Oh my god. Okay. So when we last left off, Hedwig was teaching Flora to draw, and they decided to draw cats, and they made some incredible pictures. Some beautifully human-faced cat men. They're inventing 15th century cat boys out here. it's it's so well designed. The weird tangent with the paw, the very simple strokes, the fact that it has eyebrows, the right angle tail, the tail that has 2 right angles in it. It's such a beautifully evoked image of someone who can't draw drawing a cat. I love it so much. So what was happening in the plot? Hedwig was teaching Flora to draw. What did we spend? Oh, we were hanging out with Darcy. Yes, we were hanging out with Darcy, and before that we were hanging out with the old ladies. And the war was sort of brought back up again, reinserted into the story. Like, remember the political context of everything that's happening? And I went on my big... It's exactly what cats look like. I'm closing my eyes because I can't talk and look at it at the same time. It's too good. I went on my big brain spree that Catherine was secretly one of the 2 men who was plotting to kill the king and was hiding out in a monastery, and faked her death, either to cause political upheaval by manipulating Hedwig, who she knew would investigate the death, to reveal that her identity was actually this one guy, or she faked her death to escape the convent and return to court. Something like that. In the meantime, we're looking at this thing. And Flora is saying, whatever. Cat eyes don't look like that. Is that so? Yeah, I think so, at least. They never sit still long enough for people to draw them. Oh, that's so cute. She's tried to draw cats from life before and they just run away. Flora, Do you know something about that cat Angela's been chasing for weeks? Look, you have to promise not to tell anyone. I honestly felt relieved. Compared to the secrets I was keeping for Catherine, the superior, and myself, Flora's request was positively quaint. Of course. It's just a cat. Yes, but really everyone here hates cats. I have to pretend they're vermin too, but he's such a sweet little thing. He? Oh, the cat. His name is Campy. He's a kitty! Campy the kitty! Burn down the monastery. Sorry, that sounds so gross. Burn down the monastery, they don't like cats. His name is Campy. Looking Camp right in the eye. That's unique. Catherine picked it. Oh, perhaps I was wrong about the simplicity of this promise if I was tacitly protecting a dead woman's secret as well. The full name's Campignon? Capinian? Something like that. She liked fancy classical sounding names a lot. Wait, is the cat's name Champignon? Like a mushroom? So the cat was hers? Yeah, I guess. I don't know if you could really call him anyone's cat. You can't really own cats, they just sort of exist around. He just showed up one day and took a liking to Catherine, and she gave him a name and fed him scraps and stuff. And now he's your charge. Yup. That's sweet. I meant it when I said I need you to promise not to tell anyone. Some of that lot are likely to give Campy a swift kick if he gets too close, so I'd be in so much trouble if anyone found out. Don't worry, I can keep a secret. Ah, fuck, Hedwig, you sure can. You were so good at this. Thanks. She looked away as she said this, and her face showed not even a hint of a smile. But I still felt good. I felt like I had made a real connection. It must be nice to have something to remember Catherine by. Well, shall we finish for now? I guess. Should we plan on meeting up again for more practice soon? She shrugged and glanced at her papers. Maybe. And, here, take these. I handed her the sticks of charcoal. For practicing on your own, since you like to draw. Alright. Maybe I hadn't made as real a connection as I'd hoped. And just let me know if you ever want another lesson, and we can plan for it. Sure. She scooped up her drawing and stuffed it into her robe and got up to leave without pushing her chair back in. You're being rude! Bye, Hedwig. I'm realizing I shouldn't have been pronouncing it Hedwig this entire time, if it was putting an emphasis on the way Flora is saying it, but sorry. I feel weird saying Hedwig. He's just a kid. Have a good evening, Flora. I was left alone to pack my supplies up. I had to resist snapping one of the brushes in half. Catty behavior. I just got an achievement, catty. Oh, it's got the little guy! Your achievement icon's the little fella. Your subway bounty. Okay, we're in between chapters. Tell us about the subway bounty. It got quiet, and I could just suddenly very loudly hear my cat scraping in the litter box. Okay, so you each ordered one Subway sandwich. Yep, that's what happens when two people go to Subway. Oh, you received 5 sandwiches. That's not usually what happens. Okay, so the Uber Eats guy was just like being generous. Were they good sandwiches? Were they like doubles of yours, or were they just like miscellaneous sandwiches that you just got? It wasn't someone else's order. It was just 2 of mine and 3 of it. They just made you extra sandwiches. Nice. Well, you know what they say, don't look a gift sandwich in the mouth. I feel like you were like benefited from like a training exercise or something. Nice. Yeah, my brother ordered like a million pizzas last night, so my next like 10 meals, including breakfast this morning, was just pizza. And it's gonna keep being pizza. God damn. Enjoy your many, many sandwiches. Oh no! Oh no. Oh my god. You have like a meter of bread you don't like. Damn. You just like scrape the sandwich fillings out and put them on bread that is good. Words of wisdom. Okay, back to the game. I was completely exhausted by the time I made it to the dormitory. The relatively light art supply box weighed heavy like a millstone going up the stairs. The stairs! I realized something when I was editing my last VOD, is that Catherine's husband allegedly, was killed by her, but her story is that he simply fell down the stairs. And I actually believe her, because do you remember the very first time Hedwig left her cell, Catherine was there, and Hedwig felt weird on the stairs because she hadn't used stairs before, and Catherine was very, she was very aware of it, and she was, being patronizing, but she was, encouraging Hedwig and helping her with the stairs. She was acting like somebody who was acutely aware of bad things that can happen on stairs. So I don't necessarily think Catherine killed her husband. I think she has good reason to be concerned about people on stairs. I will say that. What happened to my voice? Yeah, we talked about this. This was before they had invented health and safety. They only had occupations. I practically slammed it onto my desk as soon as I made it to my room. An early night was the only thing I could think about. I got into my nightclothes as fast as I could, as if I was trying to prove to myself that I intended to follow through on the idea. My body was so stiff that even stripping out of my habit felt laborious, and when I bent down to pick my nightdress off the floor, I wondered if I even had the energy to stand up straight again. I groaned impolitely as I straightened out and let the clothes slip over me. Never again in my life did I want to run or hike. I was ready to sleep. However, as I ran my hands over the mattress in an attempt to straighten it out a little, I realized I had forgotten something important. There was still a book on my bed. A copy of the Gospel of Matthew that I had dropped off in a hurry before returning to Flora. Yeah, the barked upon book miraculously returned despite being tossed out a window. As ominous as it was, I was at least glad I hadn't smacked my head into it like I had with the copy of Medea currently underneath the bed. I opened the book. The cover was still slightly damp, and some of the pages had fused together. I'm trying to remember what I know about Medea and plugging it into my Catherine theory, but it's not working. Yeah, I sort of glossed over how disgusting that was. I thumbed through carefully to the pages that had been opened when I had vomited all over it. The black bile had faded, but it was quite obviously ruined. I was not sure what I was looking for. A clue, perhaps, of who had returned it to my cell, or how. Or perhaps some demon had magicked it there through that cursed sigil. Yeah, because remember when the location sign was flashing Die Hedwig and violated? Fucked up. Why exactly this devil's nefarious plan had included returning books to rooms they had been thrown out of, I had no immediate hypothesis. I turned to the page I had been working on when my time in the cell had been interrupted. Matthew 5:37. The Hedwig, the... As I studied the ruined pages, Matthew 5:37. No clue. As I studied the ruined pages and saw no hidden messages nor threats, my anxiety evaporated. Matthew 5:37. I have to Google things. This is what I do. Matthew 5:37. Let what you say simply be yes or no. Anything more than this comes from evil. Okay. Okay. Christians love constructing false binaries, surreal. I'm like, okay, what's the themes? How does this plug into my theories? What does it mean? And you're just like, man, fuck these people. Real shit, though. I slammed the book shut and threw it onto the floor with a thud. You're just like kicking around the Gospels? Damn, Hedwig. It was obviously another one of Eustace's pranks, I reasoned. The timing was certainly convenient, after the threats her ghost had given me in the Misericorde. I scoffed aloud, with some small hope that she was somehow within earshot. Undoubtedly, if I hadn't knocked her onto her ass and unmasked her that night, this book would have been revealed to me at some portentous moment. She must have stored it in my cell to keep it out of view until whenever suited her little plan. I could just see her casually asking the Superior for the key in that infuriatingly flat voice of hers. She'd probably said she needed something from my shelf for the library. She's just imagining shit and getting mad at it. She's just like me for real. I slammed my fist into my pillow and buried my face in the divot. Then I remembered something. I pulled myself up on my knees and lifted my pillow. The little strip of black cloth was there. Proof! I reached over the bed for my stocking and stuffed it inside. I couldn't wait to see the look on Eustace's face when I showed her that. If I could find a missing patch on her frock... I lay down, feeling satisfied. You see, the problem is that one of the clues she has is a scrap of black fabric, but she's a fucking nun, so that doesn't point to anybody, that points to everybody. It's just completely useless. It's so funny. I imagined profuse apologies over and over, and yet I still went to sleep angry. Ah, you know what they say about going to bed angry. Don't. The morning offices and luncheon passed in a blur the next day. I went through the motions, but my mind was elsewhere. I'd sleepwalked through several days when I had been feeling morose, but today was different. There was a high-pitched whine between my eyes, so intense that I had a headache by the end of service. How are you getting neon light headaches in the 15th century? I felt as light as a bee, and equally as prone to sting whoever bothered me. It was not all anger. Some of it, I realized as luncheon came to a close, was nervous anticipation. I kept glancing over at Eustace, who seemed, to my chagrin, completely unbothered. Her superior was waiting for us outside the rectory when we all left. She pointed at Eustace, Moira, and myself, and beckoned for us to join her. Are you all ready for a little fun? Oh, that's right, we're going into the village. Excursion time, lads. Absolutely. Good. It's high time the women of this abbey made an appearance in Linbarrow Village. And I thought an adventure outside the abbey would be an exciting little adventure for our newest... Well, not our newest, but you know what I meant. That's you! Thanks, Moira. That's me. Just a little treat. I was losing count of the little lies I was having to go along with for the sake of this quest. Pardon. Moira and Darcy worked hard yesterday to bake some fritters to share with the townsfolk. Oh, fuck yeah, fritters. What is it we're actually meant to do there? The superior shot me a quizzical look. Spread some cheer, of course. Attend to the people's spiritual needs. Nothing heals the soul like a sweet treat. Good advice. They're really good, too, if I do say so myself. Eustace had said nothing for the course of the entire conversation. Pardon, I'm being meowed at. Yes, sir? Hello? Okay, goodbye. She remained silent as the superior led us across the grounds to the front gate. A cart and donkey were waiting for us. There was a sturdy chest loaded onto the wooden cart that looked like one of us could fit inside snugly. Flora mailing herself to freedom part 2! If it was full of sweet fritters, Darcy and Moira must have been very busy. I had no idea we kept a mule here. We do not. Typically, we have to send word to have one delivered from the village if we need to travel, but this one has remained here ever since the incident. Oh, it's James's donkey. Oh! Ah, this was the donkey and cart that James had been driving when he was last free. Just how many animals was Darcy technically responsible for at this point? Moira stepped onto the driver's seat of the cart, leaving me and Eustace to sit facing each other in the back. Ah, you're finally awake. Walked into that Imperial ambush. I love how these unhinged ass motherfuckers are just like, ah yes, the poor unenlightened townsfolk need us spiritually. Yeah, that's what nuns are like. Back up the Fritters truck. The Superior looked The Superior looked uncharacteristically amused at the sight of us unloaded into the vehicle. Help! I can't speak. Ah! My girls, off on a diplomatic mission together. I love the soup. She's got no fucking clue. Had I the means, I would commission a painting. She's like a mom with her phone out. It's like, oh, everybody smile. Oh, this is so cute. She's so cute. I haven't been down to the village in months at least. This is going to be a riot. She shook the reins and the cart wobbled forward. They're like so excited to go to this fuck off middle of nowhere village. Moira turned to wave at the Superior. Eustace and I followed suit, although we were both less enthusiastic than Moira. Yeah, exterior shots. The Superior disappeared behind the road as it began to curve downwards. I looked ahead and suddenly felt a wave of panic as I realized just how long and winding the path down the mountain was, and how far afield I was about to find myself. Stuck in. Oh my god, this is such a fun little effect. It's just like scrolling and Eustace's sprite there. This is so cute. This is so good. Oh my god. Stuck in a cart with someone I'd rather never speak to again, no less. So, this will be new for you. I suppose it will be. Listen, Eustace, I have no real interest in speaking with you at the moment. Fuck. I thought she was going to apologize. Shit. Hedwig, just clamp down on that shit. You two, let's not fight, eh? Let's pretend all our little problems only exist in the Abbey, and out here we're just traveling missionaries. Or brave soldiers on patrol. No. Or adventurous outlaws! Hedwig, I owe you an apology. More than one? Jesus, Hedwig, come on! She sighed and adjusted how she was sitting. No, she's right. I mean, Eustace did, like, dress up and freak her out when she was actively trying to hunt down a murderer. I get why she's angry. She's just very bad at this. She rested her forehead in her hands and looked at the floor of the cart. I should have said something yesterday, but I was indisposed. So, I'm sorry this took so long, first of all. And I apologize for... Well, you know... Say it. Remind me. I felt strangely powerful. I folded my arms. Ah, she's going on an ego trip. I am sorry that I dressed up as a ghost. I'm sorry I tried to scare you. I went a bit far. You did it more than once. Yes. How? Why? I mean, it was so elaborate. Well, I am the sacrist. I saw the suit of armor and I thought, well, this could be good for a lark. What on earth for? Some lark? It's Abbey tradition to do some sort of hazing prank. I just got carried away. That is so petty. Petty and cruel. Yeah, you weren't there for the time when Eustace was unmasked. You were there for the first time when she beheaded a goat, but she didn't actually behead a goat. But Hedwig thought she saw someone behead a goat. It's a confusing layer of like what's a Eustace prank and what's a vision and what's a haunting, and yeah, it's kind of So the second prank in the Misericorde was definitely Eustace. It was Eustace in a big suit of armor, clanking around, freaking everyone out. But the first prank is still a bit wiffly waffly because the figure was dressed up how Eustace was dressed up as, but the sword was on fire and she beheaded a goat, and later she said she definitely didn't kill a goat, and that feels reasonable because it's like a big waste of goat. Even if it was appropriate to haze nuns, which it is not, why couldn't it be nicer? Aren't there any nice pranks? You're right. What about, I don't know, a surprise feast or a gift? Something along those lines. I won't argue with you. You could have just said boo, perhaps. That would still be a touch mean-spirited, but you killed a goat for your own entertainment. Eustace shook her head. I did not kill a goat. See? This is the thing. This is a gag gift. A gag gift of vomited upon Matthew. That is entirely in your imagination. I saw it plainly. Anything you saw like that was a trick of the mind, I promise. So I'm mad, is that it? No, it happens to everyone. In a heightened emotional state, you'll often see things that conform to your expectations, or fears, as it were. That is ridiculous. Hedwig, please. Drink your medieval antidepressant. It's true. Did you know that there's a mosque in Turkey where the worshippers believe that they see the ghost of a young woman in the shadows? It sounds ridiculous, but so many people have claimed to have seen her, it could hardly be an accident. They all see a girl wearing a crown. I don't particularly care what they're up to in Turkey. Eustace let out a heavy sigh. Look, the point is sometimes people see things that aren't there, that feel very real. I promise you that I did not kill a goat. I may have been nasty to you, but I would not have killed an innocent animal just to scare you. So, there was no goat at all. I care about Turkey. Yeah, we care about Turkey. Tell us about Turkey, Eustace. I did not kill a goat in front of you. I would not do that. But you would dress up as a ghost. Yes. And wave a flaming sword around. Yes, when you put it that way, it does sound rather cruel joke. How did you even light the sword on fire? I brushed the blade with oil and held it up to a torch. That's all. That sounds so easy. Fuck that! You can't tell me it's that easy. I want a flaming sword so bad now. I'm gonna go down to the kitchen and pick up a butcher's knife and a bottle of olive oil and just be like, let's go! I looked her dead in the eyes. She matched my gaze for a moment before the cart hit a bump and her glasses were knocked askew. Moira was chuckling softly. I like how she has big, adorable anime girl glasses when actual 15th century glasses looked ridiculous. There was some weird wooden contraptions that was strapped to your face. Whoops! Sorry, I'm not very good at this. Eustace rearranged her glasses inside. I don't always have a perfect grasp of how people might react to things I say or do. Sometimes I run with an idea that isn't as clever as I think it is, or speak my mind to people who weren't interested in my input. I'm sure you've noticed that I can be rather inscrutable. I was gonna say flat, but I'll take inscrutable. Yeah, she's a real one. Eustace is Eustace! Yes. Thank you, Moira. See? At any rate, I would really like to put this behind us. We have worked together after all. Will you accept my apology? For what? Eustace was approaching this request as if my acquiescence was guaranteed, but I did not respond in kind. Category 5 autism moments. It really is this conversation. Even Moira up front, like, Eustace is Eustace! I felt vindictive, more vindictive than I had felt in my entire life. She looked surprised that I hadn't budged. For my prank, as I said. And my behavior in general, I suppose, which, as you say, can be inscrutable. I will do my best to change that. Does that include moving my things around? Perhaps putting things in my cell to find later? What? I found it. The copy of Matthew I dropped out of the window the night you were watching me in my cell. Hedwig, I do not know what you're talking about. You have no reason to lie about this anymore. I saw you in your ridiculous costume the very night in my cell I could see you in the grass. I was not there. My temper flared, and I let out an embarrassing noise, somewhere between a groan and a shriek. I pulled up my frock and pulled the piece of cloth I had found outside the abbey out, somewhat awkwardly. Eustace looked utterly nonplussed. I found this... Oh, no. Pardon me. I found this out there. Who else could it have been but you? Any one of us? A drifter. A soldier marching past the abbey with his cloak stuck on a branch that just so happened to coincide with one woman's mad delusions months later. It could have been anyone, Hedwig. But it wasn't me. Why should I believe you? After what you did the other night. You... I could feel myself turning scarlet as I sputtered. I noticed Moira shrinking in her seat ahead of us, and I suddenly felt very embarrassed. Are you going to hit me again? No. No, of course not. Alright. Well, you could, if you wanted to. I don't want to. Ah. Well, that's good. She rubbed her cheek. It did hurt quite a bit. I felt horrible now. Go watch my VODs on YouTube to see Eustace get slapped in the face. I think it's number 5. I looked towards the back of the cart for a while, watching the road move beneath us. I am sorry. Truly. And you promise that you haven't left any mysterious books for me anywhere. I did not put that book in your cell. I haven't ever been in your cell at all, as a matter of fact. I looked back towards Eustace. She was holding a hand out to me, and she had the faintest hint of a pleading look in her eye. I was not sure what to do. I was furious with her still, but I knew that letting the anger stew any longer would only serve to make me miserable. After all, we had to work in the same room. Not only that, but I still felt highly guilty for attacking Eustace in response to her practical joke. Justified or not, it was not a response that had ever been in my repertoire, and I very much wanted to never feel compelled to violence ever again. I wanted to bury those feelings deep in the ground forever. I was still mulling over my response when a pair of fritters appeared in front of my face. Would these help? Eustace and I both looked over at Moira, whose back was still turned to us as she watched the road ahead. I wonder, is there a stock image of medieval fritters out there, or did ZC just like have a baking day and make these? She had reached one arm behind her, 2 tasty-looking pastries held like a dealer's cards between her fingers. I tucked the little black cloth I'd been waving in Eustace's face back into my stocking and sighed. Just wondering. Eustace and I both took one. I nibbled at it and instantly felt at peace. Wow, these are good. They were supposed to all be for the village, but I snuck a few away for the trip. I'm glad you did. I could hear Moira crunching into her own fritter. Whoa! So am I now! Goodness, these are some lucky people we're about to visit. I thought you didn't like Linbarrow, Moira. Me too, this is making me hungry, man. Oh, I have my criticisms. Eustace took another bite of her pastry. I suppose we all do. Cotton most of all. I thought she would have approved of this gesture. Oh, she would have done it. She would have just complained a lot beforehand. And after. I chuckled, as if sharing a private joke. We finished our fritters. Eustace licked her fingers and wiped the crumbs off of her frock before extending a hand out to me again. Friends? I paused for a moment, but I couldn't keep this self-righteous act up much longer. Hedwig, you've been keeping a self-righteous act up for 30 years. I don't know why you're going to stop now. Even if I did not fully believe that Eustace hadn't also placed that book in my cell as part of some elaborate next step in her foiled prank, I supposed I had no reason to hang it over her head forever. I reached out and grabbed Eustace's wrist, and her fingers curled around my own. Friends. Eustace smiled, but her face soon returned to its default flat expression as soon as she leaned back against the side of the cart. It's got harder since she's out in public. And we still love us! We've unlocked Eustace route. So, why wouldn't Catherine have liked doing this? She also had opinions about the townsfolk. I'm a little shocked. Does anybody have a good relationship with the town? I'm sure the superior handles it all well enough. Surely it feels a little odd that nobody from the village came to seek your advice when you were in Anchoress. I was surprised until I had it explained to me that, well, we're having to take a cart ride even to get there, aren't we? That's right. I think that people never really liked that fact. It put us on the wrong foot from the get-go. But Linbarrow Abbey is rather old, isn't it? Surely things might have, I don't know, improved? Right, the distance and inconvenience is just part of it. Well, you'll see. I suppose if I have to put it delicately, if we had the ability to choose the kind of villages our abbey served. Which we don't. Of course not. But if we did, well, it wouldn't be a town like Linbarrow. I was quite frankly appalled by this. If I hadn't already shaken hands and made up with Eustace, I might reconsider agreeing to the endeavour after hearing such concited talk. Concited... Hedwig makes me laugh so much. She's just so blind to her own hypocrisies. What a horrible thing to say. It is what it is. You'll see when we get there. They're not all bad. I was trying to think of things to say that wouldn't reopen the just sutured wound between Eustace and myself, and was struggling to come up with anything. However, just as the cart rounded a sharp switchback corner, I thought of something Catherine had said in the Misericorde. I hadn't dared to mention the assignment the Superior had given me for this excursion, but I reasoned that since Catherine herself had mentioned it to me while drinking, it wouldn't arouse suspicion. Catherine is from this village, isn't she? Catherine was Irish! She meant Catherine the First. Catherine was Irish. Oh, your cats are fighting. Oh. Are they fighting over who gets to have a human face? Well, okay. Catherine was Irish. This throws all of my political talk into sharp relief. Okay, what fucking war was this? It wasn't War of the Roses. Wikipedia, help me. Was it Henry VI? I believe so. No, this is like after the 100 years. No. When is this happening? 1458. So this is... Okay, there's something about Ireland in here. Oh man, this... No, this is the 14th. This is the 15th century. 1450 something, I think. Sorry. Sorry, I have a bit of a cold. I'm sorry I keep making disgusting noises into the mic. I need to do research before I do these streams. I need to like read up on my history of Great Britain and Ireland. But everybody remember, Catherine II, the dead girl, was Irish, and that's important. Probably. Whoa, silly me. Sorry. Anyway, yes, Catherine used to live in Linbarrow. She mentioned something about having been run out of town. She seemed rather bitter about it. As well she should. I'm surprised she told you all of this. But yes, it's true, we don't talk about it much. It's a fast way to put her in a rotten mood. I would feel the same. It's so unfair. Would it be prying too much to ask what actually happened? She was quite vague about it. It's not our story to tell. Like I said, it's a touchy subject. Suffice to say, it put me off the town. The way they treated her. I won't pry. That's good. I'd be chuffed that she told you anything about it at all, though. That's real trust, that. This line of questioning seemed to be a non-starter. I had hoped for a moment that I could get my assignment completed before stepping out of the cart. A wave of panic hit me as I realized that not only were my environs about to be completely unfamiliar, I was about to be surrounded by people. Ugh, terrifying. Strange new people who sounded like they were predisposed to dislike me. I did poorly enough navigating my own conflicts, now though I would be forced to deal with a feud that sounded like it had been simmering for years. How long ago had Catherine been ousted from Linbarrow? How long before that had the townsfolk resented the abbey up on the hill? Yeah, she's entering a PvP zone. I was inheriting a mess that may well have started before I was even born. The rest of our journey went without conversation. Eustace furrowed her brow and rested her chin on her hands, gazing out of the back of the cart for the remainder of the trip. I couldn't bring myself to relax. That the miasma of indignance towards Eustace had more or less dissipated. Now, panic was setting in. I began to worry about falling out of the cart and hurting myself. What if I got lost in town, and Moira and Eustace were forced to leave me there? Such a funny fear. What if a particularly large crate fell on my head? What are you talking about, Hedwig? What if I was set upon by strangers with murderous or lascivious intent? If I had to choose one of those scenarios, which was most likely, and which would be my first outcome? I was mulling over these ghoulish bits of calculus so intensely that I didn't notice the cart had stopped. Hedwig? We're here. Moira had stopped the cart next to a wooden post on the edge of a very muddy road. She has no fucking idea about anything. We love that for her. We love to see a moron. Oh. Yuck. I should have remembered to wear boots. I remembered. Moira finished tying the donkey's reins to the post and enthusiastically lifted her robe to show off her shoes. Wow, fancy. I didn't know there were any boots at the Abbey. They're a must once it starts snowing. Ask the Superior about it when you get the chance. Although the ones we typically get aren't as posh as these. These were a gift? Lucky you. Hedwig, don't worry about the mud. Just get out of the cart. It looks really foul. Jump over here. It's not quite as mushy. I don't know. Just step down. It's really not that bad. I glanced between Eustace, whose robe was already getting muddy around the fringe, and Moira, who was enthusiastically gesturing at me from her position on a harder-packed bit of road. Against my better instincts, I awkwardly positioned myself on the edge of the cart, and oh, she could have landed in the mud! Woo! Miraculously, I had landed on the sturdy bit of the road. Oh, yay! Just leveled up since she fell down that fucking hill. My legs, clearly still weak from my most recent bout of sprinting, screamed at me to never do anything like that again, and gave way almost immediately in protest. Luckily, Moira caught me. My head crashed into her shoulders, and we stumbled together for a few steps before regaining our footing. Sorry. Don't be. Who would have known that we had a little acrobat tucked away in that cell? Yes, very well done. Unfortunately, I'm going to need both of you to step back over here to help me with the fritters. Thankfully, we didn't need to lug the whole crate around. Well, we did end up having to traipse around in the mud to retrieve them. Darcy had organised the sweet treats into 3 cloth sacks for each of us to carry. I realised that the heaviest thing about our cargo had been the chest itself, which looked like it might have been able to withstand a catapult. I love old medieval fixtures like that. It's like, yep, this is a sea chest, by which we mean if you go on the ocean, it would immediately sink to the bottom of the sea. Where should we start? Oh, it's a wee little village. With the cute rooms and the horsey. Eustace nodded towards the farmhouse, not far from where our donkey was hitched. Here's a good place as any. We lugged our bags of baked goods towards the modest house. The land was just on the edge of this huge hill we had just ridden our way down. A few trees dotted the well-grazed lawn, and a lone horse stood idly close to the stable. I couldn't help but feel that it looked deep in thought. Is Hedwig can have one of those moments that she looks into the eyes of a farm animal and thinks about shit for a while? As we approached, a side door to the house swung open. What's all this then? I love a bloke who says, what's all this then? We come bearing gifts. Is that right? A woman emerged behind the gruff-looking man. Both of them looked cautious. Feels like it's been donkey's years since you lot came down here. Sister Moira and Sister Eunice, right? Eustace, my lady. My apologies. I don't recognize this one. Oh, this is Sister Hedwig. She's new. I tried to say something, but all I could muster was a little noise. I waved instead. We heard about cotton. Terrible thing, that. Can't help but feel responsible. Please, don't. It's not your fault. James was a troubled boy well before we started looking after him. No helping some people, that's what I've learned. Oh shit, were these James's adoptive parents? Oh, what the hell are we doing here? James lived here. Oi, my nephew. Shit, it's his family! It is his family! Hedwig's just gonna drop her fritters and start running back up the hill. Always a little funny, that one, but I never would have... I didn't know he was that kind of blackguard. Lost his family in the war, years ago. Aye. They were taken for spies travelling home one night. He'd be, what, 22, 23 now? He was supposed to be running the family in by now, but he wasn't cut out for being a landlord. I'm not sure there's much of an inn left. Anyway, we took him in and put him to work on the farm. We do modest work here, a little bit of animal husbandry, but the real money is in stabling the horses for folks in town. James was a real helping hand on a good day, but he had a habit of running off whenever he felt like it, sleeping in, being a nuisance in town. God rest him, but he was a sloppy worker. Terrible with the animals. Never had more livestock go missing than were left. Their nephew is about to be, executed for committing a murder against a nun. And they're like, bloke was dog shit. Tag a bloke who does fuck all. Sleeping in is the same as murder. We were doing something good taking him in. He had potential. Some people find their way later than others. I really do believe that. It was only right. But now, here we are. If you're here to solicit donations, it'd only be right for us to be generous. Oh, that's so kind, but we're actually here to bring you something. Moira opened her bag and held it out to the couple. Well now, did Sister Darcy make these? That's right. In that case, don't mind if I do. He and his wife happily took a pastry each. They bit into them, and I could see a sense of relief overtake their worried faces. Crumbs, that's good. Too right. Took another bite. As he munched, he pointed a thick, calloused finger towards me. So what's your story? Well, it's not altogether very interesting. I heard about Catherine, and I felt compelled to help. After all, she was the chronicler, and I used to write all day, so she was our hungress. I see. One of those hermits. I didn't know they could just up and stop. It's unusual, certainly. I imagine it must be quite strange leaving a position like that after so much time. Were you born in there? No. I was very young when I started, though. What's your favorite thing about being free? Oh, don't upset her. She's not She weren't... Yeah, she weren't not free before. It's an important job, isn't it? That's right. Oh, I don't mean to offend. Still, though, it must be very different to be out and about all of a sudden. Hedwig has taken a real shine to her new work. Yes, she's really been putting it back into it. I couldn't tell if this was meant to be a jab at the altercation I thought we had just behind us or not, but it irritated me all the same. Just being nice, you moron. Well, that's good to hear. I'm sorry I never made use of your services while you were anchored. Only it's quite a commitment getting up there and back. We had James make that trip more often than not. If there was one thing he was always good for, it was that. Mail, supplies, that sort of thing. Fucking some nuns, that was all his purview. Ah, I suppose he must have set his wicked sights on Sister Catherine. Well, I mean, he did set some wicked sights on a Sister Catherine. But don't worry, it's much less evil than you're afraid. Maybe... Maybe he was watching her this whole time. Well, he was definitely watching Sister Catherine quite avidly. Best not to speculate. And don't blame yourselves. If it would make you feel better to make some sort of donation, I can let the superior know. Not that we came here to solicit that sort of thing, mind you. Oh, no, of course not. I hope I didn't offend. No. It'd only be right. It'd only be right, yes. I wanted very badly to tell these poor people that I'd spoken with James, and that I was trying my very best to help him. Whatever joy the fritters had brought was nothing compared to the pain I could sense behind their rugged faces. These were delicious, by the way. Sister Darcy always was a talent. You lot should come down here more often. I agree. I suppose you'll be off to see the town now? Yes. Hopefully we brought enough of these. I won't bother you for seconds, then. You have a good day now, sisters. Pax Vobis. We all exchanged nods. Eustace led the way back past the farm towards the road. That went better than I had feared. Really? I'd rather get cupped than do that again. Those poor people. They were really very sweet. How horrible for them, though. I only meant that, I don't know, in the cart ride down I was half expecting to be met with swords and spears. Who says we won't be? We're not in the village proper yet. Thanks, Eustace, that's really reassuring. I'm sure Hedwig loved to hear that. I stopped dead in my tracks. The buildings ahead of us loomed like some dark fortress's gate, and I suddenly became very aware once again that I was further from my cell than I had ever been. Hedwig, you were born in Trier. You are not further from your cell than you have ever been. Further than the hills. Further than the hospitalum. Oh, Eustace, don't scare her. Sorry, I'm just being glib. Are you ready, Hedwig? Hold on. I doubled over, still clinging to my bag of fritters. I tried my best to take deep breaths, but it was difficult. I was no longer in complete control of my faculties. Hedwig? You can do it, Hedwig! I'm so far from home. You have friends with you. It's all right. What if I just drove the cart back myself? I could send someone else back down with it to collect you. I've had quite enough for a day, I think. Do you know how to drive a cart and mule? It's going to be fine. Look, I was just grousing on the ride down. It's just silly personal drama. I probably made it seem bigger than it really is. At worst, it'll be a little awkward. You can handle awkward. You're always awkward. I want to go back. Look, if someone is rude to you, you have my permission to slap them. Eustace! I took a particularly large gulp of air and stood up straight. Uh-oh. Look, you definitely shouldn't slap anyone. Here, I was joking. It was funny. Okay. But seriously, do not. I won't! I would never. Guess I got lucky. Oh, you like that, Eustace? Are you ready? Let's get this over with, shall we? Yeah, cobblestone streets and shit. Entering the village proper was immediately dizzying. I had only just started growing accustomed to the size and scope of the abbey, but now I was surrounded by buildings and streets that were unto themselves their own little abbeys. Despite being spread out between buildings, courtyards, gates, and windows, I had been able to think about Linbarrow Abbey as one place. Leaving my cell had been painful, but at least I was still in a world I could understand. I could not bring myself to think about the village in the same way, even though it was the village of Linbarrow. I tried to stretch my understanding to include all of these places in my head as Linbarrow, but it was impossible. I had no idea how Eustace and Moira could walk so calmly between shops and houses and inns and not feel terrified. Does that sound mad? It sounds mad to say it out loud, but it really was impossible to comprehend. One could not walk, I presumed, from one house into another the way I was allowed in the Abbey. The only place I was restricted from going was the back of Eustace's library, which was really only a request. I watched people knocking on doors and waiting for someone to invite them in. I saw men standing impatiently outside of shops, waiting for proprietors to return. Everyone, it seemed, was beholden to the terms of some uneasy peace treaty. Everyone was the king of their own little castle. Yes, individualism, it's terrifying! Living like this would make me even more miserable than the Abbey did. As we passed people in the street, we would offer them fritters from our bags. Most conversation was short, if there was conversation at all. Moira was perfectly chipper, and Eustace maintained her usual calm demeanour, though through even the most brusque encounters. The rudest people acted as if we weren't even there. One even bumped Eustace on the shoulder, and I'm sure it was on purpose. Eustace didn't react at all, save for a quietly muttered curse word I dare not repeat. Eustace said the fuck word! For my own part, I was doing my best to keep up the act. I dragged my feet in lockstep with my cohorts. I went through the motions of lifting up the bag. I didn't speak unless I absolutely needed to. I forced a smile to each passerby instead, hoping it would be enough. My cheeks were already numb by the end of the first street. Goodness, we still have so many left. Darcy made too many, as usual. That's just like her. She's very kind. Is there something wrong with her making lots? No, of course not. No! It's sweet how excited she gets about helping out. Oh. Not every observation about someone is a criticism. Fucking learn that, Hedwig. Oh, it'd be nice. Weren't you just getting snitty about Hedwig calling you... Oh, I can't even remember now. Inscrutable. That really wasn't a criticism either. I think Moira was the only one of us having any fun. Ooh, a bunch of cool doors. We trudged through more streets, passing out fritters and knocking on doors. Not a single person had anything to say to us beyond a courtesy greeting and thanks, and many people didn't even have those to spare. I don't think anyone is home. Just try one more time. I'd feel terrible if we missed someone. Not a peep. All of a sudden I was soaked. Did someone empty a chamber pot on her or something? It happened so fast that I didn't even realize what had happened at first. I felt as if someone had boxed me around the ears. Oh, Hedwig! What in... Ugh! An unconcerned-looking woman was looking down at us from the window above, holding a still-dripping laundry bucket. Oh! My apologies, miss. I didn't see you three down there. Yeah, of course not. Not a chamber pot, but still gross. It's very easy to miss nuns at the door. Well, there's no need for sarcasm, miss. Neither Eustace nor Moira had gotten very wet at all. I, however, was covered head to toe. Just this unpleasant, frosty smell coming from the water, and I realized that my bag of fritters was sopping wet as well. So relieved it wasn't piss. Oh, but it's stinky wash water! Okay, I guess that is better than piss, but like, clothes got gross back then, and washing them out, you're talking about how muddy the road was. Would you like a fritter, madam? No, thank you, miss. Of course, madam. We'll just be off then. Have a good day, miss. The woman retreated from the window without so much as an apologetic glance in my direction. Well, at least it was water. Yeah, Eustace is with you, Jules. Here, Hedwig. Let me carry that. No, if you're sure. Eventually we came to a square with several diverging streets. Eustace leaned against a wall, looking fed up. Moira looked as if she'd finally noticed that Eustace and I were not as sociable as she was. Her pleasant smile morphed into an expression altogether more concerned. Ah, how are you two doing? I just want to get this over with. Yes, I've had quite enough of this, to be honest. Nobody seems to even care that we're here. Maybe it'd be best to just cut our losses and go home. We can't do that. No, that wouldn't be right. Why not? But both of you had horrible things to say about the people here on the way down. Not so loud. And with all honesty, I must agree with them now. And now you're dedicated to finish a completely thankless task for them. Why? She has a point. I mean, I don't love the idea of telling a superior we gave up, but we we really can't go back until we've finished. Why not? Eustace. Moira motioned for Eustace to come closer and whispered something to her ear through her hood. Ah, right. I'm sorry, Hedwig, but we really need to do this job properly. I know it's difficult. What's going on? Nothing. It's really nothing. What kind of fool do you take me for? What did you tell her? Hedwig, why does nobody treat me with any sort of respect? Am I so difficult to explain things to? Would my fragile little mind simply burst if you explained whatever you told her to me as well? No, Hedwig, please. You're making a scene again. Moira took a step forward, positioning herself between Eustace and myself. Hedwig, I don't think you are foolish or difficult or anything like that. So what did you tell her? I can't say. The fury I had been nursing before the cart ride was back in full force, and this time I could not control it. I raised my hand, and Moira flinched, but she stood her ground. I did not hit her, of course, although I would not like to dwell on how close I came. Instead, I jabbed a finger in her face to gesticulate angrily. So you're lying, then? No, Hedwig, I don't. Oh, how like Elisha I felt, not bold, but nonetheless belittled and insulted the things outside of my control. I cursed Moira, I cursed Eustace, I cursed the whole town for all to hear. Yeah, she has not controlled, yet she's completely, yeah. She's got a long way to go. We need to get her back to the Abbey. This isn't healthy for her. But I hope Angela is right about bears. Huh? I said I hope Angela is right about the bloody bears! I don't follow. Eustace was nonplussed, but Moira had pieced my admittedly cumbersome insult together. Tears were rolling down her cheeks. You don't really mean that, Hedwig? Her sniffling caught me off guard. But before I had a chance to feel sorry, she'd stormed off, away from the town square. Her bag of fritters was still in her hand, and I remembered that it bounced so inelegantly it would have been funny in any other situation. Eustace cast a mild yet dark expression at me. If you want to get back to the Abbey sooner, you should have kept that little tantrum to yourself. What did she tell you? Never you mind. She hoisted her bag over her shoulder and made to follow Moira. Stay put. I'll clean up this mess. Wait, you're leaving me here alone? Yes. But no, that's silly. Let me come with you. I'm sorry about all that. This is just so different and... Stay. Put. Why? Because I don't really want to be around you right now. But we're friends still, right? We said so. You said so in the cart. Without another word, she turned around and set off after Moira. Yeah, stupid games, stupid prizes, act like a 3-year-old, get treated like a 3-year-old. Ugh. I was left all alone in the town square, my frock still dripping mildewy water into the cobblestones. Yeah, like I totally understand why she's acting like this, but it's hard to watch. I let the wet sack of food fall to the ground and sat down on a low wall. I gripped the bricks, digging my fingernails into the hard stone and biting my own lip, trying not to cry. Was my behavior so out of line? I deeply regretted upsetting Moira, but I had withstood just about enough for one adventure. I was in a strange place where strange things were happening to me, and now I was all alone. Every now and then one of the townsfolk would walk through the square, but they paid me no mind. A dog wandered over to me, and I froze. I had never seen one before. I recognized it instantly, but I was scared stiff. Even if it was a farm animal, I couldn't help but notice its sharp teeth and animal eyes. Yeah, Poppy, shoo, I'm not food. The hound ignored my pleas and instead began snuffling around my legs. I held my breath as it rudely prodded my stomach with its snout all of a sudden. I know, she's so many things she hasn't seen. Like a dog. She's never been snuffled. Please? Please, please go away. I yelped as the creature drew itself up on its hind legs and rested its front paws on my knees. Not daring to move in case it felt like tearing me to pieces, I whimpered as it continued sniffling. After a genuinely harrowing handful of moments, it finally decided I didn't seem all that tasty and returned to the ground, but not before licking my face for good measure. I was relieved that I was spared from becoming its dinner, but it's just giving you a sniff, Hedwig. Come now, why are you laughing? I was frightened. I'm sorry, Hedwig. It's just giving you a sniff. It likes you. Give you a lick. I could have been eaten. You really couldn't have. Oh, really now. Anyway. It's really good at, speaking to me, this game. The beast turned its attention to the sack of fritters on the ground. I suppose that it had smelled those first and had been looking for them the whole time and had been assaulting me. But nonetheless, it had given me an awful fright. Even still, I felt the creature deserved better than dirty fritters. Leave those alone. They're all foul and soggy. The dog paid me no mind and wrestled with the sack until the contents spilled out into the zone. Immediately, the dog began scarfing down huge bites of the sodden pastries, which were quickly becoming one big messy blob. I suppose I had no reason to stop it. At the very least, it wasn't eating my face. Puppy! Oh, it's like a little beagle hound. It's like a little hunting dog. Oh, with the floppy ears, the puppy. Does that not bother you? Is there nothing better for you to eat? I reasoned that the dog probably had no reason to care that the food was soaked through with dirty water. I sat and watched it eat. It was deeply unpleasant, but I couldn't look away. You watched a dog eat, mushy food. That's very jowly behavior. Moist crumbs fell out of its mouth as it chomped loudly. The same food was being lapped up over and over. Eventually, however, the laundry water seemed to win. The dog made a shuddery, spasming motion that made me flinch reflexively. I was unsure if it was about to wheel around and attack me. No, it's just going to throw up and then eat its own vomit in front of you. Instead, it made a ghastly hacking sound. Half-chewed slop poured out of its mouth. The fetid mountain of ruined pastry grew even larger. Yet it kept eating. Yeah, it threw up and then it ate the vomit in front of her. That's what dogs do. It's disgusting. It paid no mind to what assuredly must have tasted even worse after coming out than before it went in. Had this creature been a man, I would have begged him to stop. But all I could do is watch it continue to regurgitate and consume the horrid slop the sweet pastries had become. Oh, it's a metaphor. It keeps throwing up stuff and then wallowing in its own mess and making itself feel worse and throwing up again and wallowing in the mess and making itself feel worse. And then I heard a sound of trumpets. A mule in a wood cart had arrived in the town square. No driver sat in its front seat. A wooden pole sat in place of the rider, reaching up into the sky. I moved my gaze up to the pole to see the large flag, or perhaps a kite, was drifting idly in the midday breeze. I held my breath as the cart passed me by. Another cart passed me by, and then another, each flying a new color, a different flag, a new kite. They drove in circles around the square. I think there were a dozen in all. The dog chased the tails of the mules as they walked past, dodging out of the way of the wheels at the last possible moment each time one came too close. In between each cart's passing, the little creature would return to its prized mound of filth for another bite, before getting distracted again by the next donkey's tail. The trumpets blew again, this time much louder, deeper, more mournful. A new kite joined the procession, this time not a simple flapping cloth, but an intricately adorned effigy. A man. His face was chiseled handsomely, his expression stoic. Two poles held this effigy aloft, one in each of this man's wooden hands. As the cart passed by, as the cart passed me, the effigy's head turned to face me. His eyes met mine, and I realized it was no effigy at all, but a real figure. His gaze felt terrifying and peaceful all at once, and he beckoned me to follow him. The dog had disappeared. Only its horrid meal remained. I took care to avoid stepping in it as I left my perch on the low wall, and followed the cart as it peeled away from the procession in the square. Is this a corpse that's being, publicly displayed? I assume it continued behind me. I do not know. I was transfixed by the cart ahead of me. I followed the cart and its floating rider through the empty streets. I felt disconnected from my body, as if my footsteps were happening after I had already performed the next. I was drifting over the cobblestones. I felt as light as the man above the cart did. The sight of the effigy had already made me weep, and I could feel a confused urge to burst into sobs welling up inside. But I also felt light, calm, and even joyous. I felt everything there possibly was to feel at once. As the cart reached a dead end, however, I felt a moment of doubt. I did not want the sensation to end. I doubled back, hoping the cart would turn and lead me again. It did no such thing. I felt a brief moment of panic as I turned around to perhaps coax the man to follow me, and saw that it had disappeared. I gasped and lunged around again, hoping it had just missed passing me. No luck. I spun around again and again until I realized that I was no longer touching the ground. I floated above the village. I could see all of the streets, all of the houses, all of the nasty little fiefdoms and the people who ruled them. I was being pulled up and up by some force that I knew I had to give myself over to. This was right. This was where I needed to be. The strange sensation that I was being tugged up by the scruff of my neck eventually gave way to a feeling of blissful control. I was flying now, just as the man above the cart had done. I was flying higher, in fact, and all the people below me could see what their cruelty and indifference had wrought. My ascendance, their abandonment. Then I felt that hand around my neck again, firmer this time, more assertive. I was dragged by the throat the rest of the way up to my destination. A plateau above the village, overlooking the lake. I struggled to breathe, my breath was ragged. I begged with whatever it was that held me to let me go. Eventually I was flung to the grass. I fell on my back into the cold dew, my head crashing against the dirt. I felt a ripple of pain emanate from the back of my skull, all the way out through my whole body. I could not move anymore. I stared into the clouds. They were a deep grey, heavy with rain. What if she's actually a ghost and she's been dead this whole time? That's something. That is something. Everybody's dead except Catherine. They covered the sky almost completely, save for a bright spot growing bright above me. Yo, is that God? All-seeing, all-knowing, all-seeing, all-knowing. The clouds parted and the man I had followed appeared between them. He was gigantic, magnificent, and terrifying. Is this the bloody King of England they wanted to kill? His piercing stare kept me pinned to the ground. Why does he have is that a compass? He does look like God from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. The trumpet sounded one final time. Sextant, yeah. Hold on. King of England. Sextant. It's clearly a reference to some medieval portrait. I don't know. I have to look up Ireland, under the exact king that was happening in this time. I have to look up a guy holding a sextant. Yeah. The man finally blinked, and with slow and regal grace, he withdrew between the black rain clouds that flanked him. It began to pour. I was all alone. Field trip. The name of the star is Wormwood. I love medieval images. Like, what is happening here? Bunch of naked ladies in a cart being pulled by geese. 2 geese and 2 ducks, I think. Sister, I thought I saw you wandering up the hill. Are you all right? You'll catch a cold if you stay out here too long. Come on up. Up we get. No. What's gotten into you? It's a good thing I stepped outside when I did. I'd hate to think what would happen had you gotten stuck up there all by your lonesome. You feel quite clammy. Where'd your friends get to? Did you get lost? You're the new one, eh? Easy to do around here. I still have to second guess myself sometimes if I wander further than the inn. We can send you up to the Abbey once you've warmed up. Are you hungry? I'll tell the wife we have a guest. Lucky enough, we've always kept enough around for 3. Still life. Here you are. Well, eat at your own pace. You should eat, though. Climbing that hill all by yourself, that's hard work. In those shoes, no less. Did something happen? She looks quite dazed. Miss, sister, did someone get rough with you? Or did you have a fall, perhaps? I imagine it'd be easy. That path hasn't been taken care of in donkey's years. Is there anything we should tell your abbess? Eat up, dear. This is not on. If one of those towny bastards mistreated her, they won't hear the end of it. She's shaking her head. Oh, thank God for that. Do try to eat something that whatever happened clearly rattled you. Catherine. The dead woman? No. No, she means our Catherine. Birthmark on her face. If you say so. I'm rubbish remembering that sort of thing. The tall woman from the estate. You remember. So she really did take the vows. Well, I'll be. Yes, she lives in the Abbey now. I could not bring myself to look at them. And do you think she could kill someone? What sort of question is that? Well, yes. Harold! Way to go, Harold! It's common knowledge. Even still, you're upsetting her. She's clearly a little touched right now. What is common knowledge? Well, Harold, do not upset her any further. She killed her husband, didn't she? Now look what you've gone and done. Who was her husband? A lord of the estate by the lake. It was a terrible scandal. And there was proof. Well, not that I know of. But it's proof enough, I suppose, that she opted to take the veil. We should stop talking about this. It's not proper. Why would she kill him? Had something to do with infidelity, if I remember right. It's not spoken of anymore. The whole village put it behind him when she left. And who is the lord of the estate now? Truth be told, I can't be asked to keep up with titles and whatnot. The new lord only visits occasionally, I think. A house with a murder like that hanging over it. I can't imagine it's very comfortable to stay there long. How did Catherine's husband die? She cut his head clean off with his own sword. Okay, you can't. If he fell down the stairs, you can't make that look like that. Also, that's what fucking happened with the other Catherine. Her own sword. What the hell is happening? Or so they said. I wasn't there, so I couldn't tell you for sure. But one way or another, he ended up without his noggin. Don't you had a beheading victim without his noggin? Nasty business. Nasty place in general, this hill. Something here must drive folks mad, I reckon. First cotton, then our James. Rich or poor, Something'll grab you. I'd move, but that's a task easier said than done. They spoke so freely of the horrid crime. It was common knowledge, even. The answer, it seemed, had been available to me all this time. Several simple questions were all I had needed to ask. At the wife's urging, I tried to eat a little more of the pottage they had so kindly provided. It didn't take, however. I was elsewhere still. I felt shame. Shame for how long it had taken me to make any forward momentum on my task, for Catherine's sake. Shame for how simple the connections I had needed to make seemed now. I felt shame that it had taken a vision to put me on this path. What I had just experienced was a divine course correction. The kind of thing reserved, I imagined, for good sailors lost at sea, or troops wandering in the desert. That I had been deemed worthy of this kind of direct messaging from God spoke very highly of Catherine. Surely I felt there were more important people to be helping than I. Perhaps I had been aided in their stead. Perhaps there was a prayer out there left unanswered because I was too foolish to do a very simple job. Perhaps, as impossible as it may seem to suggest, I was stupid enough to put a strain on God's omnipresence. Matthew 6:28. Considerata lilia agri quomodo crescunt, non laborant neque nent. Perhaps I am lower than the lily which thrives while wanting for nothing. So dramatic, I know. But am I wrong to think it? God provides for all, and God is not limited to any one action at any one given time. Still, I feel, sometimes, that I could just be that wretched. Of course, as I might remind myself in a better mood, that's conceited talk. Or perhaps I am allegorizing the flowers and the birds too heavily, as Augustine warns us about. Who am I to complain, after all? I have suffered far less than Job, yet here I am lamenting more than he ever did. Whether I am damned or just conceited, there is no path that leads me away from shame. Oh, that must be your friends. The man stood up to get the door. I did not turn around. This is just like Life of Brian. I love that line. That line where she was like, there is no path that leads me away from shame. And you're just like, Monty Python. I was deep in thought, staring into that fireplace. The birds don't have jobs, and they're perfectly happy. Well, this was like that time period where like natural sciences was sort of like every animal and planting and stuff exists as a sort of metaphor from God, where it's like, I can't even think of a good one, but it's sort of like, I don't know, like porcupines exist to, I don't know, teach us to defend ourselves or something like that. It's that sort of thought process. But it's like way more abstract and strange than that for all of them, because they had to come up with a metaphor for every animal to explain why they existed. It's weird. Medieval mysteries are weird and they're fun to read. I was deep in thought, staring into that fireplace. The flames were more comforting, more understanding, more understandable than any pair of eyes I had ever looked into. I could hear pleasantries being exchanged, footsteps on the wooden floor. I could feel two cold, wet presences approaching behind me. Soon I would have to leave the comfort of the fireside to join them. Hedwig! Sister Moira. Sister Eustace. Can you forgive me? It was pointless to wait for a break in the rain, or so my companions said. The ride back up the hill to the Abbey was much soggier than the trip down. Some other travellers in carts, flanked by armoured horsemen, passed us by at the village outskirts. They looked just as miserable as I felt. I could hear raindrops plinking against their helmets as they hurried into town. We sat in silence for the first third or so. I looked out of the back of the cart towards the farmhouse chimney, yearning for the security of that fireplace until the building was out of sight entirely. I told the superior this was a bad idea, you know. You were wrong. Oh, yes. I learned something very important today. Really now? Yes. It would be difficult to explain. We have time. No, Eustace. I've already forgiven the poor woman. There's no need to torment her. I'm not tormenting her.
I'm curious.
Well, after we split up, I watched a parade go by. It was a parade? No, there wasn't. I'd finally given up on trying to stare into the increasingly distant fireplace and turned to face Eustace. She looked tired.
So, what do you mean, a parade?
I mean exactly that. I'm sure you can understand. I had a vision.
Really now?
Yes, I swear it. I saw a parade, a procession of carts, no riders, all carrying grand kites and banners. And one of them I thought at first carried an effigy. But it was... well, it got more mysterious after that, I suppose.
What happened?
Yes, tell us. This is very interesting. Well, I followed that particular cart for a while. I suppose that was how I ended up wandering away from the town square.
Understandable. I did tell you to stay put, but I might make an exception for a vision.
Eventually, I lost him. But then I was carried through the air. I know this sounds quite strange. And then, whatever courage the fire had given me had finally waned. I could not bring myself to explain the entirety of my experience to Eustace, whose expression remained, dare I say it, inscrutable. And then I came to, I suppose. I'm not quite sure how to describe it. You flew?
She walked. That farmer saw her climbing the hill.
Do you not believe me?
I believe you felt like you were flying.
I felt it. I saw it. I was in the air, however briefly.
The man said he found you lying down in the grass at the top of the hill, getting soaked by the rain.
I know it sounds hard to believe, but that's what happened. Eustace sighed deeply and pulled her hood tighter over her head.
People don't fly.
Perhaps flying is the wrong word. I was being carried. It's not like I had control over my faculties in the air. Like you were being plucked from the earth by God's own hand? Well, yes.
Moira, the man saw her climbing a hill.
So he says. Maybe he saw her after she'd come back to the ground. Or maybe both things are completely true.
How would that work?
Well, Hedwig could have been carried, and maybe the farmer was shown an image of her climbing. I mean, she would have been far away from the house, just sort of a shape, so he would go up and find her.
So God carried Eustace up the hill and showed an image of her to a man who was already nearby? 2 divine revelations within, 10 or 15 meters of each other?
Darcy has visions all the time. Why is Hedwig having one so hard to believe?
So now we have 3 people in close proximity all having grand visions. It does beg a belief. Just a tad.
I think it's beautiful. Maybe this mountain is just special. Everybody is so afraid of this fucking mountain. Everybody is like, oh, it sucks to live here. It's so scary. There's like visions of like people with like the madness in men is being brought out from within. And Moira's like, I love this place. It's so pretty and special. Oh, plot points keep happening around here. Isn't that interesting? Eustace let the squelching of the mud beneath the cartwheels answer for her. I just think it's possible, that's all.
At any rate, it's a mute point to argue. I don't think Hedwig is lying. I just don't know if I can accept that it really happened.
What about Darcy's visions? You've got quite an interest in those, haven't you?
Darcy's are different. In what sense? Well, she's never claimed to be flying in any of hers.
What does happen in hers, typically?
Why don't you ask her and spare me the Inquisition? That was uncalled for. It's been a long afternoon.
You can say that again. Can we all please make up before we get to the Abbey? I'd like that. I'm sorry for being so hysterical.
You're not hysterical.
It was a cruel idea to force you into coming, I think. I'm sorry for insisting we stay longer. I wanted to tell Moira she didn't know the half of it. She didn't deserve to worry about having forced me to do anything when the Superior demanded it in the first place. No, my behaviour was inexcusable, as it is all too often. I thought I caught a glimpse of Eustace rolling her eyes out the corner of my eye. Perhaps she was just adjusting her spectacles.
I can appreciate that this trip was an extenuating circumstance.
Yes, I think next time I will stay at the Abbey if it's all the same to you. We should at least take you on a picnic or some such. Small steps, you know. You can't stay cooped up in the Abbey forever.
I thought that was... Oh, I thought that was rather the point. Oh, you know, you have such a dark sense of humor sometimes, Hedwig. There was no handshake this time, but I did not feel like I should push things any further. The rest of the ride up to the Abbey was silent, but at the very least, it was a slightly less uncomfortable silence than the one that preceded this conversation. I didn't like the uncertainty, but it would have to do. The rain was showing no signs of letting up when we finally arrived. I was particularly bedraggled. The indignity of the laundry water incident was something that would stick with me permanently, and as soon as I hopped out of the cart, I made a beeline for the dorms to change. Whew! Hedwig, where are you off to now? The dormitory. I must get out of these wet robes so I'll never be dry again in my life. Yeah. Why don't I draw a bath? I had to admit, it sounded like a wonderful idea. You know, I think I would like a bath very much. We all would after an outing like that, I think. What day is it again? Oh, November the 21st, I think. Perfect. I froze. I had not realized that Moira meant we should all bathe together at once, and I didn't like the idea at all. Ah! Oh, perhaps I'll have one tomorrow. Nonsense. You'll catch cold if you don't. Do we even have time to heat up water for it? With any luck, somebody else already had the bright idea to take a bath today. I couldn't help myself. I groaned aloud and pulled my hood over my eyes. What's the matter? Ah, I suspect... Well, you don't have to join us, Hedwig, but I think it'd be a good idea. We should all be naked together, you know, as friends. Well, that decides it. Curse my wretched body. I would have escaped this humiliation if it weren't for that little sneeze, I'm sure of it. Oh, go on then. You two run up and get your change of frocks. Ah, Eustace, would you mind getting mine? On it. We made our way upstairs to the dorms quickly, dripping water all along the way. Hey, it's Darcy! Yay, Darcy time! Darcy, come have a bath with us! At the top of the stairs, I nearly ran straight into Darcy. Oh, good, you're back. I was just looking for you, Eustace. Hello, Darcy. Do you have a minute? I jam or something? Of course. Hedwig, would you mind getting Moira's clothes? Hers is the door between Catherine's and Darcy's. Oh, yes, I can do that. Eustace nodded, and Darcy hobbled away, back down the staircase. Eustace stopped for a moment on the landing, however, and turned to me. That reminds me. You should talk to Darcy later, you know. About your vision. Oh, yes, I will try to remember to do so. Yuri time. You say like 50 hours into a visual novel. It's been like 10 hours. 10 hours into a visual novel about nuns. It's finally Yuri time. Eustace nodded and then disappeared down the stairs after Darcy. I quickly scooped up my dry frock from the dormitory. No suspiciously placed books in my dorm bed, I noted. I felt wrong to intrude in Moira's room, but at this point I desired nothing more than to get this whole exercise over with as quickly as possible. I opened her door and slipped inside, on the lookout for her spare clothes immediately. The last thing I wanted to do was gawk at somebody else's room uninvited. I couldn't help but notice how neat and tidy it was, however. There was a beautifully carved crucifix hanging on the wall above her pillow, and her reading desk was meticulously stocked with papers. A handsome quill sat next to an inbox as well. To cap it all off, there was a beautiful little box resting on the desk next to the organized papers. The wood was clearly expertly carpentered, and was gilded in a regal yet understated fashion. The whole room had a sense of carefully considered elegance to it. It was perfectly fitting for Moira. Simple but radiant, not vain but reverent. Please do not tell Moira I just described her as simple. I did not mean it as an insult. You're so okay, so whoever Hedwig is talking to in a year's time is able to speak to Moira. Okay. Approachable. Uncomplicated. Steadfast in her positivity. The bath situation is a perfect example of what I meant. I'd been so cruel to her in the village, and to be perfectly honest, Eustace wasn't exactly kind to her in the cart either. But Moira's instinct was to bring us closer together. There's a simple beauty to that. I think so, at least. Anyway. Okay, when you say you're calling Moira, do you mean you're picking her as the murderer, or you're like calling dibs on her? I quickly identified an impeccably folded set of clothes next to her bed beneath the window. I scooped them up quickly. As I turned around, however... Yeah, she said, don't tell Moira, which means that whoever she's talking to is capable of talking to Moira. Oh, you're calling... Okay. You're... You're snitching! Ah! No. The pile of clothes I was carrying, I think, had brushed up against the quill resting atop a desk. I watched it tumble end over end onto the floor, carrying the ink pot with it. No! Black liquid oozed out of the pile of broken glass. I scurried away and closed the door behind me in a panic. I checked the bottom of my shoes. There was nothing there, thank God. In reality, it was dead silent, but I promise you I could hear the bubbling, oozing, and dripping of the undoubtedly expensive ink I had just splashed all over the floor behind the door. There's not one thing, it's always another with me. Was I being punished for dawdling once again? Should I have emphatically refused the offer of a bath and instead made a beeline to the superior's office? I'm being punished for wanting to see women naked. Should I have gone then at that very moment? Truthfully, I only came to that conclusion a bit later. In the actual moment, all I could think about was what to say to Moira, or if I would say anything at all. It's shameful to admit, but I was frankly terrified of putting any strain on our relationship at all after my embarrassing display in town. Moira was endlessly forgiving, but I worried that even I could find an end to her graciousness if I kept imposing upon her. And so I decided I would leave this. I couldn't leave quickly enough. I practically flew down the stairs. Suddenly, I was very eager to get into a bath. Anything was better than being caught red-handed with a broken bottle of ink, even burying myself in front of Moira and Eustace. She's still got her cowl on. They did used to bathe like that in the Middle Ages, though. They would keep their hair covered. Moira was already in a tub by the time I arrived. She beamed as I entered the room. I kept my eyes low and deposited a change of clothes close to the edge of the wooden tub. Oh, was Eustace Willard? Yes, Darcy needed her for something. It's okay. Hair haram. Oh, well, thank you kindly. I realized there were two tubs similar to the one I had used to bathe my first time out of myself. Yes, I still want to take a bath in a big wine barrel looking tub under stained glass. Thank you. With a nun. At the very least, I was relieved I was about to submerge myself in water rather than stand awkwardly in front of the many smaller wash basins stacked against the wall. Massive bath would fix me. It would fix everybody, I think. We need to have a worldwide 8 billion person communal bath, and everything will be okay. This is my pitch for world peace. I had been using those to wash myself whenever I could squeeze in a trip to the baths alone after I had discovered, to some horror, that communal bathing was considered the norm here. I thought 2 big tubs might be nice. The water's not hot, but it's pleasant. You filled these up fast. A miracle of engineering. This abbey is quaint, I will say, but I'm very thankful for the thorough plumbing. The builders didn't skimp on that at the very least. She raised an arm to point at the wall behind her, and I instinctively shut my eyes. Put your boobs back below the waterline. Oh, don't be silly. Anyway, the faucets are back there. They're quite quick. I had my own faucet in my cell, actually, but I didn't know it was connected to anything greater. Yeah, thanks for clarifying you meant plumbing is important and not Moira's tits. But, you know, 2 things can be important. Oh, you should take a walk around the cistern one of these days. It's quite fascinating. It's the oldest building here, if you can believe it. 200 years ago. Sorry, I said cistern, and my brain is like, think of joke to do with sisters, trans, nuns, ticking around my theory that about like Catherine's gender thing. It's not. I can't put it together into a joke. You take these pieces, assemble a joke for yourself. 200 years old at least, and it serves the kitchen, the bath, the lavatorium, and keeps it all separate. Glad to hear it's all separate. I'd never feel comfortable here otherwise, but it's apparently not far off from the kind of water management you'd find in the richest castle. Truly, we are blessed. I might not always feel that way, but yes, I think we are. How does it work? I must admit I couldn't tell you. Sister Cotton showed me a diagram she found in the library once, but it was a bit complicated for me. I know much more about how bodies work than buildings, I'm afraid. Speaking of, she leveled a finger at me with mischievous glint in her eye. Are you going to get in the bath? You're looming a bit. Oh, well, go on. I'll shut my eyes, I promise. She squeezed her eyes shut in a fashion that she might have intended to be jovial, but I couldn't help but feel condescended to. Nevertheless, I sighed and began to gingerly shed my layers. I balled up my damp clothes next to the empty tub and stepped in as quickly as I could. If I could avoid being seen at all, that would have been grand. I take it you're in? I am. The water was not as hot, not as warm as the bath Darcy had drawn for me after I had first left my cell, but it was still a relief to sink into it. Moira opened her eyes again, blinking comically. This is nice. Indeed. I sank as low as I could and pulled my knees up to my chest. With my chin resting in the water, I could still peer at Moira over the lip of the tub. I did not want to be seen, but I also did not want to be rude. So at the very least I maintained eye contact. Black and blue. Excuse me? Oh, I'm sorry, I was just thinking aloud. Your humors, they're all black and blue, aren't they? Well, mostly black. Little phlegm for colour. Does that sound about right? No. Oh, no points for guessing that, I reckon. Eustace had appeared in the doorway. She was already removing her hood as the door closed. I did not want to be seen, but at the very least I did not want to be rude. Big vibe. Big vibe. Me at any sort of gathering where it's like, okay, I'm present. This is all you get. I looked away out of modesty as soon as I saw that she was casually shedding all of her clothes and haphazardly tossing them aside as she walked. Well, it's my job to notice these things. Do me next. Yeah, Eustace? That's easy. You're as phlegmy as they come, with just as much yellow bile sloshing around in there for good measure. You're like a big clever soup. Oh, goodness gracious. When are we eloping? Eustace gets it! Moira laughed, and I could hear her flick some water in Eustace's direction. Then I realized something that gave me an instant sinking feeling. Well then, who am I sharing with? Oh, good question! I didn't really think about that. Well, hurry up and decide. It's getting nippy. Can we not get a third tub? We only have the two big ones. Ah. We could play a game to decide. Too late, I've made my mind up. I braced myself, but the splashing sounds that followed came from the other tub. I opened my eyes to see Eustace looking as nonplussed as ever, sitting next to Moira, who seemed wholly unperturbed. Oh, long hair Eustace! I mean, obviously, of course she has long hair, she's a medieval nun, but like, oh, I see her hair out. Thank God, I thought. I've never seen you without your cap, Hedwig. I guess you had black hair, but I suppose I'm still surprised to see it. Really? I feel like I knew the moment I saw her. Are my humors that pronounced? Yes, but whose aren't? I like how she has a fringe. Yeah, they have like anime girl fringes under their habits. You put much more stock in that sort of thing than I do, I suppose. Well, it's my duty to know. Yeah, there's like no reason for them to have anime girl fringes, they just do because it's cute. Sure enough. What colour do you think my hair is, Hedwig? You're always wearing that thing in the bath, but I think I know. Eustace looked down. I'm asking Hedwig. Moira was still wearing her cap. She gestured her head, dripping water onto Eustace's bushy brown hair in the process. I wouldn't really know how to deduce that. Take a wild guess. They frowned, squinting at Moira's eyebrows from across the room. Some sort of, I don't know, dark brown. Chestnut brown? Does the accent not give it a— Ow! Moira elbowed Eustace, chuckling. Oh, is Moira ginger? No cheating. It feels like there's a clue you want me to recognize that I'm just not seeing. Hearing. Top of the morning to you, Hedwig. I don't get it. Oh my god! Don't say that! With an impish grin, Moira tugged her cap up a little. A few locks of jet black hair draped across her face. Oh. Oh. Huh. Just like you, Hedwig. How nice. Consider me surprised. I mean, it's funny. That's a nice reversal there. I remember my mom always got told she looked super Irish. She is super Irish. Both her parents were Irish because she had dark black hair, but the most like pale blue eyes. That's a very Irish combination. I look like this because we're melancholic TM. Yeah. My humor die. Did you expect a fiery Irish redhead? You win, you win. I genuinely had no idea what she was talking about. In fact, I was slightly irritated. I hadn't expected anything. How could I have? Even the considerate and kind Moira couldn't remember that until recently my entire world had been a few meters across. Sorry for the misdirect. I couldn't help myself. Red-headed. Like King David? King David had red hair. I thought he had brown hair. What does it say in the Bible? He's described as Rufus, which means red-headed. Oh, I always took that to mean he was, well, you know, red-faced. As in his whole head is red. Really? Well, I could see that interpretation, but... It's more like, what the fuck is a stereotype? Hedwig is just unfamiliar with various hibernal conceptions. Besides, in Song of Solomon, I remember thusly, Delectus meus candiditus et rubicundus. My lover is red-headed, his hair curly and black. Latin. Golden-faced is used similarly to red-headed here, I should think. You might be right. I guess it's calling him like swarthy. Oh, this is so exciting! I'm caught between two true scholars. I feel like I'm at a real council. It's our job. That's right. Still, I like Hedwig's interpretation. It's fun to think about David having red hair. It's dramatic. I didn't care for Moira's use of the word interpretation here. Either Eustace was correct, or I was. And I didn't much like the idea of being wrong, but I was grateful for the support. The conversation subsided for a while, and I became all too aware of the fact that this was a peculiar state for three women who had been at each other's throats earlier in the day to find themselves. No, it's Yuri time! Come on, get with it. It's exactly where you're supposed to be. I worried that Eustace and Moira felt the same way, and prodded them with questions. I guess they're like searching for the true interpretation. I think she feels a bit condescended to, in that Moira's just like picking things that she thinks sounded interesting rather than, you know, favoring someone whose interpretation she believes is most correct. I don't know. So, do you all do this often? I should hope so. Bathing is very important for your health. I think she means, you know, together. Oh, yes, well, it's a little embarrassing at first, I suppose, but it's efficient, isn't it? I don't really plan around it, but if there's enough of us here that you're going to run into someone else eventually. It's how things are done the world over. The Romans had huge communal bathhouses. Monks washed together too. I must admit, though, a private bath every now and then is to die for. I suppose I've been lucky. Whenever I've come to use a wash basin so far, I've been all by myself. Is it difficult being around other people, I mean? I really should have made sure this wouldn't be too big of a leap for you, especially after the day you've had. I'm quite alright. What have the Romans ever done for us? It's a Monty Python themed episode, I guess. But I'd rather no one looked at me. Ever? That's right. Not while I'm in the nude, certainly. It's nothing we haven't seen before. They spoke in unison. Eustace down low, Moira way up high. Still all the same. But I understand. If I take my spectacles off, you'll just be a pale smudge. Would that help? Well, I prefer that over being defined. Your pussy is special! No, she's God's specialist baby girl. Don't you forget it. Hedwig doesn't want to be defined. You're so wrong, Hedwig. I want to be cut as hell. I want to be, like, mad buff. Right, you are. I'll pop them off when it's time to dry off. By the way, Eustace, are you ever worried you'll drop your eyeglasses in the water? God's specialist baby girl with God's specialist pussy receiving the most mystical visions. Those are really expensive, surely. Unbelievably. I'm lucky to have them. They're huge. I dread to think how much they cost. Is glass expensive? Very. Oh, goodness, yes. I'm sure you've noticed there aren't too many glass windows here. Let me think. There's a superior's office window, the chapel. I've had these for a very long time, and I hope they last. My eyesight's always been dreadful, but it could always get worse. Goodness, I'll pray for your sake. I wouldn't wish couching on my own worst enemy. Couching? Ooh. Oh, no, I didn't want to. Okay. You cut the eye open, and then, whoo. I won't go into details. Thank you. So, Eustace, tell us, how did you afford those? That's a little forward, don't you think? True, but we're already at the bath, aren't we? Can't argue with that. Fair enough. I did some work for a glassmaker a long time ago, and took these instead of monetary payment. Ooh, what sort of work? Same as I do here, really. Information organization. Maintaining a library. Maintaining orders and logging events, that sort of thing. Oh man, she had a job, like a real job. In sewing, couching is where you lay one thicker thread on top of a fabric and then sew it in place with a smaller thread. Oh, I don't want to know what that means in terms of eyeballs then. I don't know what the fuck they were doing to eyeballs back then. Bad things. Yeah, Eustace has the same degree that I'm going for, apparently. But I can't believe the fact that she had a 15th century, like, job, like a real job. I was about to say that sounds like a lot of work, even for a pair of glasses, but I suppose none of us are being paid at all here. I get by fine. I don't miss the old job. What made you come here? Well, I had always wanted to retire to the countryside. And once I had a sturdy pair of eyeglasses, I reasoned, what else could I possibly want for? Oh, I don't know. A rich husband, a beautiful home. I never wanted those things. Nor I. I did, once upon a time. Now, though, I agree with you too, I think. At the very least, it'd take more than that to get me away from here. Yeah, my 15th century ass jobs of library science and psychopomp. You know, over the past few weeks, I've been so overwhelmed by everything new to me here. I'm not sure I'll ever truly get used to it. This life of asceticism might feel simple to you, but it'll never be simple to me. I was prepared to spend my whole life with much less than all this. That is a very helpful perspective, actually. Yes, that's important to keep in mind, I think. Are you feeling better after everything? Everything that happened today, Hedwig? I don't know. Most of all, I just feel embarrassed. As I feel about my behavior in the Misericorde, yet still. Forget about it. Yes, there's no need to worry. Really. I think I would fare worse if I were in your shoes. And we can help you get better. In fact, I think it's our responsibility. Perhaps it was because we're all relaxed from our baths, or perhaps there was something to be said about being naked and vulnerable in a room with other people after all. But the second round of apologies for the day felt genuine. I wondered how the ink on Moira's floor was faring. It was hard to relax with that in the back of my mind. The conversation slowed down as we all focused on washing and scrubbing, and I soon realized that the most difficult challenge was yet to come. When we're all done and it's time to, get dressed, could I go first? Oh, of course, but why? Well, it's just like we've been talking about. I'm not used to all this and... Ah, it's a bit embarrassing. Yes, that's it. Exactly.
Won't it be more embarrassing having us just sitting here watching you?
Don't confuse her.
I'm trying to help.
No, she's right. I mean, the most embarrassing thing would be all of us at once.
Why?
Because then you'll both see me, and I'll see both of you, and we'll be close to each other.
You are giving this a lot of thought, Hedwig.
What if Eustace and I both close our eyes? That would work.
Would it?
Oh, what if you two went first and I closed my eyes? That seems more, I don't know, efficient?
I wasn't aware that efficiency was a concern. Honestly, this is the most I've ever had to think about being naked.
Hedwig, I appreciate the offer, but I'm happy with letting you go first.
And closing our eyes?
Yes, it'll be difficult. We just said we'd do our best to make it comfortable.
I have no problem with that broadly, but it does feel a bit weird to worry this much about seeing each other in the buff. Naked I came from my mother's womb and all that. Who cares?
That's not for us to judge. It is a little bit. What about Matthew 5:28 or Leviticus 18:9?
You can't be quoting Leviticus when you're having a communal bath. Way to ruin the mood. Again with the Leviticus. We're not actually sisters. I don't think that passage applies. Sister is a term of formal address. It has nothing to do with being actual siblings of any sort. Stop making it weird for me to fuck my fellow nuns, Hedwig. I know you know that. She was right, of course, but it just irritated me more. I had really been counting on my superior scriptural knowledge to excuse me from being personally embarrassed, but alas.
Thinking about it, Hedwig, I know this might be difficult, but how about we all just try doing it the normal way? Getting out and getting dressed all at once. I think Eustace is right to some degree.
Judas!
In what sense?
She is so annoying!
That'll be more difficult in the long run if you don't get used to it. I don't think that's anything you need to worry about. I'll just keep bathing alone when there's no one else here.
Can we make a decision before I get too pruny?
I think we should all get out on the count of 3. You said you weren't going to push me as far anymore. Hedwig, there are 3 of us here, and we all like each other. You had a tough day in the village, but you made it back in one piece. Surely this will be easy compared to what you went through around all those strangers. I don't want to push you, but I also want to help you. A part of that, I think, might involve pushing you just a little bit.
She's right.
If I have no choice. I had nothing left to argue with. My day had been thoroughly confusing, and if mingling naked with my shameless sisters was to be the capstone to the whole affair, then so be it. I don't think it was Moira's argument that convinced me, however. Or rather, it might have, but only because it made me consider the full weight of what I had seen in my vision. I didn't know what it meant, but I certainly felt compelled by a newfound drive to stop stalling in every little aspect of my life. You do have a choice, but let's get it over with. So what if I get a glimpse of your,
socket? Socket? Eustace! Don't call it that! Come on!
Very sure?
Good lord, that's old-fashioned.
I'm a fancy little lady at heart. You are, Moira, and we love you. I took a deep breath and braced my arms against the edge of the tub. Eustace, however, was already standing up and drying herself off with a towel, and I've been meticulously detailed about almost every aspect of my days outside of my cell. Would you mind if I glossed over the rest of this? I don't particularly feel like describing Eustace and Moira's bodies any further. My own, for that matter. I have excised several minor details from my story, as it is, after all. What isn't she telling us? I've been exhausting, if I will grant that. But I haven't told you every last meal I've eaten. Then it's important. It's important. Something is missing, and it's important. She doesn't know it's important, or she does know it's important, and she's protecting someone because she's telling this story a year in the future, and what does it all mean? This is the most unreliable narrator ever, because she's being meticulously detailed, but she's like a fucking moron. Yes!
She's driving us both insane. I've not told you about every trip I've taken to the privies. I think our conversation in the bath was relevant information, but I think it will suffice to say that I did not enjoy getting dressed in front of my colleagues. And I was very brave about it. Yes! You are God's specialist baby girl with God's specialist pussy, and you're being so brave in the communal bathtubs at Yuri time. You can rest assured of that. Brooding is just as much my responsibility as a chronicler as cataloguing, wouldn't you agree? Don't worry about the gay sex, nothing to see here. What gay sex? My shirt, I did not have gay sex at Linbarrow Abbey, is answering a lot of questions already raised by my shirt. What is important about this ordeal is that I was actually quite courageous, and I did not make any sort of scene at all. I got dressed alongside everyone else, and we departed the baths without incident. Incident, however, was not too far away. Okay, I'm gonna stop there. Because that's a fun line to end on, and we've had a wonderfully dense episode so far, I think. I'm not, I don't want to save, I'm going to save this slot because I just want to keep this thing's face here. I just like looking at it so much. This has been fun. It's been really fun to spend some time with God's specialist baby girl. And it has been a while since the last stream, actually, because stuff kept happening and I couldn't stream. But I want to stream weekly again soon. So hopefully, Monday will return next week. And I will get this up on YouTube promptly, unlike the last time where it took me like 2 weeks to put it up there. But it will go up. And you can look back on all of my previous streams. Okay. Thank you for coming out, and auf Wiedersehen.